Barrett was just full of life, absolutely full of life and joy, and he was funny and witty. He loved basketball, loved all kinds of sports, never met a stranger.
He was a tall, handsome young guy that he was the light in our family.
Two of his best friends were going to FSU, so he decided he wanted to stay in state and ended up going up to Tallahassee. He was so excited. He was ready, and he loved college life. For me, it had started out as any other day. It was a beautiful Monday morning. It was approximately 12:15 on that Monday. I still remember it, and getting the call. And so it was Andy. And all he said was, there's been an accident, and Barrett's being airlifted to the hospital. And then the doctors came in, and they told us it wasn't good. I was really scared. Friends began to arrive at the hospital. I just remember people coming up and saying, we're here for you, we are here for you, and we're praying, and we have the church praying.
I just remember how comforting that was, that so many people would come.
Thank you for the hope that we all have.
They took us to his room where he was, and walking in was a surreal feeling, just seeing him there. But we did get to walk in together and be by his side for a few hours.
And I sat there all that afternoon, and I just held his hand. I told him how much we loved him. I prayed for him. It's like I walked through his whole little sweet life from the time he blessed our family. So that's how I spent the afternoon, just at his bedside. And he never regained consciousness.
It was an absolutely crushing loss. Every parent's greatest fear, their worst nightmare. And for that family in that moment, how do you move forward? How do you begin to think about piecing your life back together? Where do you find comfort? Maybe that's not the experience that you're going to have in your life, but at some point, we all face that question. Where will we go for comfort in the midst of our challenges?
The hard thing is the fleshing it out day to day in the here and now, because it hurts. From the minute we left the hospital and got back to our home, people began to come to our home. And it's as if God Himself was orchestrating every detail through all these different people.
The sheer number of people that were coming and going in our home and taking care of things that, how I was even working at the time, I really don't know.
Some came to pray, some came to bring food, some came just to sit with me, some came to clean our house. These people were the hands and the feet of Christ in our home.
Hey, Kim.
Shortly after we lost Barrett, David Swanson preached a sermon about Joshua staying in the tent. And I knew that was me. My tent was my home, and I would beg God to show up. I have wrestled with God. I have cried. I have journaled. I have wanted an answer. And ultimately, I just had to learn to rest on the knowledge that God is who He says He is, and that I do trust Him. And I just learned to wait, and it was so amazing because God truly met me here. He met me every day, and I would stay in my tent, and all my friends knew I was in the tent, and they would come and go, and they would come and minister to me and love on me. And I think in the seeking God in His Word and looking for who He was to me, what I found, I believe, was such a deeper relationship with who Jesus is. And I pray that God will use my life to make a difference in the lives of others. Know that I am here for you, and know that I will walk with you and pray for you. I've been involved with various grief ministries. I think where God has called me is people know my story, and I will just get a phone call one day and someone will say, Carrie, so-and-so just lost their child. Can you come? I never know day to day how He's going to use me. I'm grateful that He does. I'm grateful that I'm available, and I'm so grateful that I can point to who He is in this. Apart from Christ, I could not take one step, and that is my story. So when people look at me and say, how does she do it? I don't. It's Christ in me. I'm evidence of His strength and His comfort and His promises. I don't have the answer to the question of why, but I think what I've had to learn is ultimately to trust God and to trust Him with this. And I know also, even though I don't have the answers now, I know I will one day.
It's an amazing story of the way God provided comfort for this family in the midst of great need, tragic loss. And not only that, but here's the good news, the hope of Advent is God took the comfort that He poured into their life through community and through their prayer life and through Scripture, and now the Burchecks have been the agents of that comfort in the lives of other people. When others in our community have known loss, they have been the ones to take the comfort they received, and they have comforted others. What a blessing when God doesn't waste our pain, but He redeems it and uses it for His redemptive purposes. That's the hope of Christmas. It's the hope of Advent, and I pray it'll be the hope that fills your life as well.